Hello everyone, I want to welcome you to part 3 of this series on family reunification for healthcare workers. This part is going to talk about the photograph rules. Depending on processing times for joint family visas in your country, you don't want to get it wrong, and then eventually when your application is assessed and they ask you for another document or the correct document or to correct one of your submitted papers or anything like that. So you don't want that, and you want to get things correct. That's why I'm making this video. This is photograph rules. So generally what you need to know about the photographs that you will be submitting with your application. Remember that if you are applying, if your spouse is coming to join you in Ireland and you have kids as well, they all need to present photographs, 2 copies each. So, and you want to get the requirements correctly. That's the purpose of this. Now here are the rules for visa applications, that's joint family visas. So the visa application must include 2 passport sized photos of the applicant. So if your spouse is applying, he needs 2 passport photos. If you have kids as well, each of your children, they need 2 photographs each. The photos must meet the requirements described below. They must meet all the requirements that I'm going to show you in the slides as we go on. If not, the application would be delayed further until you provide the correct photos. That is just the standard. So you don't want to get it wrong after waiting for so long or to get your visa approved. You don't want to get it wrong. You don't want to cause further delays, so you want to get it right once and for all. First thing you need to know is that passport mustn't be more than 6 months old. That of your children and that of your spouse shouldn't be more than 6 months old, so it should be recent, within the 6-month window. Then another thing, the name of the applicant should be written on the back of that passport. 2 copies each for each person, so the name needs to be written on the back, and the visa application reference number. Remember that in part 1 and in part 2 I mentioned something like you have to go online, fill the visa form, and on the summary when you print it out, it's going to show you a reference number for that application. So for each person, you need to save that reference number. You need to keep it somewhere safe. You need to write it down if possible so you don't forget that. So that same reference number is going to go on the back of the photographs that you will be submitting with your application. Another thing you need to know is on the quality of the photograph. The photograph should be printed on photographic paper, not just any plain white paper. Or maybe some people, they have photographs on as PDF or on their laptop. They just print it out on a paper, on A4, and they cut it from that and they plan to submit it. No, it has to be on a photographic paper, the one that is like glossy and shiny. So it has to be on the photographic paper. The reverse of that photograph should be white and unglazed, not the back of it that is maybe grayish in color, or maybe the back of it is color blue or is color black, and only the front as the glossy the photographic paper. So the back should be plain as well, plain white, so you can write on that and it can be clear whatever you write on that. Then it should be taken against a plain white or light gray background. So when you want to take a photograph for joint family visa purposes, it should be on a plain white background or on a light gray background. You can't take it on a red background, for example. Maybe for official applications you can take it on a blue background or on a red background. No, it's not acceptable for joint family visa or any kind of visa. And I want you to know as well that this same photograph rules apply to any visa that you're applying for, that is for Ireland. So this photograph rules applies to all kinds of visa applications for the Republic of Ireland. So put that at the back of your mind. For example, if it's you're applying for employment visa, you're applying for visit visa, you're applying for transit visa, you're applying for visa as a researcher or as a business person, all your photographs, everything needs to follow these rules. Now, your passport photograph should have a sharp focus. It should be correctly exposed, not blurry, not a kind that you won't be able to see the parts of the person that is in the background. So it needs to have a sharp focus. It should be correctly exposed as well. So you really need a professional to take that, or someone with steady hands, or maybe if you're using a phone to snap that, you need a very good Android phone or iPhone, whatever you have. It has to it needs a good quality as well, so that it's not blurry and there are no shadows. Your quality as well, there should be no shadows, there should be no glare. There should on the image or in the background, the photograph should have a good color balance and natural flesh tones, no red high. That is, you are not going to edit the photo, like some people use photo editors just to adjust the tones. They adjust everything. They change the color of the eyes, they make the cheeks to go bigger, they make the lips to go red, and all of those things. No adjustment on that, no editing on that. So you need to make sure that there is a good color balance. Some parts are not too shiny, some parts are not too blurry, and no red high. Just make sure you know that. I'm going to show you the examples of what they look like, the examples of approved ones and the examples of the ones that are going to be rejected. Now, your photograph should be 45 to 50 millimeters in height and 35 to 38 millimeters in width. That's just the standard for taking photographs. It should show a close-up of your face. Remember that the photograph I'm talking about is not your international passport. This is just passport photographs, just the small photos that you stick up to your application forms and things like that. So you need a standard. That is the standard measurement that is approved for visas for Ireland or for joint family visas as well. It should show a close-up of your face. It should show the top of your shoulders. Your face should take up 70 to 80% of the frame, not your clothes taking up half of or over 75% of the frame, or not your face going so backwards that it's taking up a fraction of 25% of the frame. So your face needs to move close to the camera and it needs to take up 70 to 80% of the frame. Concerning your pose, your head should be centered in the image, not tilting towards the left, not tilting towards the right. Your neck should be stable, should be centralized as much as possible. Your head should be centralized. You need a frontal pose, looking directly at the camera, not your eyes going somewhere in a different direction. You need to look straight at the camera, and your full face must be shown. So no rotation, no tilting of the head, either in and up or down or left or right direction. Avoid that as much as possible. There should be a marked contrast between your facial features and the background of the photograph. So your face is not blending with the background. There should be a difference. There should be a significant difference. Remember that you're using the white background or you're using a gray background. That is just to ensure that all your facial features can be seen correctly. So in terms of quality, in terms of pose, in terms of everything else, make sure you get it correctly. In terms of expression, what you need to do is that your expression should be neutral, with both eyes open and your mouth closed. So your expression should be neutral. You're not smiling all through. They don't need you. They don't need that. So yeah, you're not laughing. You're not like making signs at the person taking the picture. You're not frowning. You're not changing. You should be neutral as much as possible, and your eyes should be opened. Your mouth should be closed. There should be no hair covering your eyes. There should be no contrived expressions such as raised eyebrows, you squinting your eyes, or you're frowning, or you're smiling, or you're laughing, or you're looking sideways, or you're making all sort of gestures at the person taking the picture. Those things are not acceptable. So your expression should be neutral as much as possible. If you use glasses, you should take them off completely. It's advisable that you take them off completely before you take that photograph. If glasses are worn, they should be of clear glass so that the eyes are clearly visible. Like people with contact lenses, that is also fine. But provided your glass is obstructing your face and it's different from what is going to be on the image on your international passport biodata page, it's advisable that you take it off completely. Don't use sunglasses, because your face should be shown and clearly seen as well. Then in terms of head covering, I think I've mentioned that. No hair covering, except if you use that for religious reasons, and don't put on a hat, don't put on a cap, don't put on a headband. It's not for social media purposes. It is for visa. It's for visa. After meeting up with all the requirements, you don't want a photograph just to be a disqualifying factor for you. If you use a head covering for religious reasons, then your face must be clearly visible. Your face must be visible. No bands, nothing else should be worn, and just take note of that. In terms of age, I mentioned that earlier on as well, that the photos must be less than 6 months old and must show the same image. That is, you can't use two photos. Maybe you have one from 4 months away, and then you just have to take only one photograph to add to that. You can't use two different images. You can't combine images. The photos you are using have to be exactly the same, exactly the same. So this is the final checklist that you need to take note of. So your photo must be in color. Your photo must be taken against a plain white or light gray background. Your photo must have a sharp focus. Your photo must be correctly exposed. And remember that if you have kids or your children, the photographs of your kids should meet up with all these standards as well. They should meet up with all these standards. It should have good color balance, natural flesh tones, no red eye. Have good contrast between your facial features and the background. There must be no shadows or no glare in the image or in the background. Now, to the examples that I'm going to show you, this could also clearly be seen, or if you go on immigration website or visa website, you would see something. If you search for photograph requirements, you might also see samples like this. So this is a contrast that is clearly not acceptable. You could see that the face is like blending with the background. The white background is not showing, so that is not acceptable. In all ramifications, you could see the position of the head is touching the frame. That is not acceptable at all. One can't even see the facial features, and one can't even recognize if it was someone else, and it's blurry. So that is not acceptable. The contrast, the brightness of the phone or of the camera used is too much, and thereby making all the facial features to blend with the background. That is not acceptable as well. Positioning the head is tilted towards the left hand side. That is not acceptable as well, and the head is touching the frame. That is not acceptable. You need to be mindful of that, so that when you take your pictures, you need to know that this is completely blurry. I can't even see the facial features. You need to take note of that as well, and say this is acceptable. The positioning is okay. The face is covering 70 to 80% of the frame. There is significant space on the left and the right hand side, and there is space on the top as well. The head is not touching the frame. The contrast is okay, and you can see the person in the picture clearly, and the white background is also reflecting. It's the contrast there is not too much, it's way balanced, and that is the acceptable size for the dimensions of the photograph: 45 to 50 millimeters and 35 to 38 millimeters. So the person taking your picture should make sure that they have this fixed. Sometimes even when you fill your application form, when you have done everything, you've gotten all your requirements and documentation, when you go to visa application centers in your home country, you will see people around taking this photographs, and they already have their standards, they have the measurement. People around the visa offices only, and they can help you to take correct pictures. In case you're wondering, how am I going to do this, how am I going to get this done correctly? And then in case or eventually they have new people in the office, you can always make corrections and say, no, you need to take this again, because before they print it, they will show you that, is this okay, are you happy with this or that? So you need to know that as well. And on this, now this is another example. You could see there's no significant space in between. The background is gray. It's something, it's very hot. It's a brown. I don't even know if that's a brown or something else. And the head is touching the frame. It's not acceptable. You could see here, even the contrast is a little bit hard. Even this one, it's covering the headband, is covering the face. Even if it's for religious reasons, covering half of the face, like significant part of the face, it's not acceptable. And the background is a colored one, as if it's for social media or Facebook posts, is not acceptable. And the face is significantly occupying 95% of that frame. It's not acceptable. It should be within 70 to 80%, and this is good to go. There's significant space, the background is white, and all the facial features are clearly seen, so that is okay. Now another thing you need to know, now this is a baby. As an example, this is a baby, so this is not acceptable because all the body, the face of the baby is just showing, it's covering 10% of that frame. It's not acceptable. The baby is not well positioned. There's hand in the mouth. There's a lot of things. The picture is far way backwards, not a photograph but a standard photo. So this is not acceptable. You could see that there is even someone else in the background here. That is not acceptable. Trying to position the baby, that is not acceptable. And if you see this as well, the contrast, it's not neutral. There are some parts that show reddish, there are some parts that are lighter in color, so the color wasn't well balanced. You need to be mindful of that. And even on the contrast, this side is way lighter than the other side, and that should be taken into consideration as well. And now see this, for people with babies, they might have to wait for the perfect times even to get them positioned in this, so that they can get it correctly once and for all. Remember that you need 2 passport photographs for each of your kid and for your spouse as well that is coming to join you in Ireland. And this is another example, someone with glasses, with sunglasses. Now the head here is literally touching the frame. It's not acceptable. The frame is covering the eyes. They don't know the personality. They can't see the person, the facial features of the person in that that is in the frame. So that is not acceptable. The head is significantly tilting towards the left. That is not acceptable, even though the background is okay. And here you could see that the glasses is dropping. The expression is like, I don't know what expression that is, to it like someone that is hungry at the person taking the camera. So the expression, facial expression, should be neutral as much as possible. The head is significantly touching the frame. That is not acceptable. The glasses is falling off, even though the person wants the face to be shown, to be seen. It's not acceptable as well. And even this, the glasses, there is glasses, it's also covering the head, and the head is not well positioned. Head is touching the frame, and the contrast is too white. It's too bright. So that's there are significant errors with that. You can see this. The glasses was taken off. It was taken off. Actually, the glasses is on, but it's one with that is plain, and close to the eyes, not the one with the big frame. It's acceptable if it's like that, or if it's a contact lens that all the facial features are showing and there is significant space, that is left side, right side, and the top of the frame as well. The contrast is okay, it's not too bright, it's not too dull, and you could see the facial features of the person, and the white background is showing clearly as well. You need to be mindful of that. Now, for all the things I've explained, you could see this is a baby, and this is the adult, this is a woman, and this is someone with glasses. So you need to be mindful of that. Those are acceptable. Those are the acceptable ones. Now, after taking the correct photos, what you need to know about the submission of the photographs. Remember again, like I mentioned, the name of the applicant should be clearly written on the back of the photograph. When you write the name, you also need to write the reference number of the person on the back of the photograph. All the photographs you are submitting, write the names and reference number on the back, and don't make this mistake of attaching your photograph to the application form. Don't, that is automatic rejection. Don't staple that together, don't pin it together, don't use anything else, don't tape it with the form, don't put it on the position of passport photo, because you will definitely see that when your form is printed out. Don't affix any photograph to the form, leave it separate. It's going to be taken separately and just put in the application envelope that you are submitting. The visa officials at the VFS global centers or at the visa offices, they will tell you how to submit that passport photograph in your hands. So another thing you need to know is that when writing the name on the back, it should be in block letters. And if depending on your country, you can write your surname first, you can write your first name and your middle name. You can write that first, as just as it is on the visa application form that you have submitted, and then your transaction number. So your name should be written in block letters. It's preferable to use a black pen, which is the official pen, to use that. Put the photos in the same envelope as the application form. Do not staple or attach the photos to the form. Don't staple them, don't attach the photos. Note that photographs that do not meet with the requirement will not be accepted, and this might delay the processing of the visa application. Now, thank you so much for listening. Still to come, we still have part 4 and part 5 of this visa application series. So part 4 and 5 of the visa application series. Part 4 is going to talk about your letter of applications, how you're going to draft that. The person in Ireland that is going to be your sponsor needs to write a letter of invitation. You as a spouse joining your family, joining your spouse in Ireland, or your partner, you need to write a letter of application, and then, or if your kids are traveling with you, you need a letter of consent from the person that is sponsoring you as well. That is permission to move those kids with you, because a parent has to consent if you are going to be traveling with kids, with your partner's kids that are less than 18 years old. So there is need for a consent. So I'm going to be showing you that in part 4 of this series. And then the last thing on arrival, part 5 is going to talk about the checklist before submitting your visa application. Things you need to know, go through one more time, so that on first review of your documents, it's going to be approval. You're going to get that approval immediately. You're going to get that approval. So I'm going to talk about checklist, how you need to arrange all the documents you've been gathering. I'm going to talk about that in part 5. And when we talk about checklist, we talk about organization of your document, and we talk about things to do, what to do on arrival briefly. Thank you so much, everyone. Don't forget to give a like to this video and subscribe to this channel. That is my website that is showing on your screen, www.adebusolaowokole.com. It's a new one that I've just opened. You can visit and take a look at what's going on. on that site as well. And here is my contact details, just in case you have more information. Maybe you sent a question and you didn't get a response on time. That is my contact information. Thank you so much, everyone. See you in the next video. Bye.